My Aunt Fanny was captured by indigenous people. Her story is something else. This happened in Virginia, and newspapers from Pennsylvania to New York to England were covering this story. And it was still being republished in the newspapers for 100 years after this happened. So there are very detailed accounts in her own words of what happened. First of all, let me say this. The white settlers shouldn't have been taking the indigenous land to begin with. Fanny is my, I think, fourth great aunt. Fanny Dickinson was born in 1756. She came from an old family in the colony of Virginia. They were quite wealthy. Her and her brothers decided to come settle the Appalachian region, and they were some of the first settlers in Russell County. In June of 1785, there was a tragic attack on her home. It was nighttime, and they were all getting ready to go to bed. All of a sudden, indigenous people rushed through the door. Her husband jumped out of bed but was immediately fired at. One of them grabbed Fanny and instructed her to sit in a specific spot in the floor and not move. As that was happening, some of the others unalived her three youngest children while they were in their bed by taking a blade to their throat. And afterwards, they threw them in the floor near Fanny. The oldest, a beautiful girl who was 8 years old, jumped out of her bed and ran to Fanny and said, "Mama, please save me." Fanny begged them to spare her child, but they did not. They unalived her in her mother's arms. They took Fanny as prisoner, and 11 days into her captivity, they were somewhere in Kentucky and she escaped. She followed the rivers to try to lead herself back home, but the terrain was so awful she almost turned around and decided to go back. She got bit by a venomous snake on her ankle and she was starving, surviving just off of plants. She had ran into multiple bears and wolves. She really thought she would never make it back out alive. She came to a part where the valley parted in two ways, and she was so discouraged because she didn't know which way was home. At that moment, she saw one bird take one path, and then another bird take the same path. She chose the path that the birds took, and in 2 more days, she was back home. In August of 1785, she made it back to Russell County and came out of the woods at the New Garden settlement. That was almost 2 months that she was out in the wilderness trying to find her way home. This historical marker for her is in Duffield in Lee County, Virginia, which used to be Russell County, Virginia. She lived to be somewhere between 90 and 100 years old. The colonies kind of strategically sent people to Appalachia to be a buffer between them and the indigenous people. This attack on Fanny and her family was led by Chief Binge. He was half indigenous and half Scottish, and he was redheaded. He led tons of raids all through Southwest Virginia, and he would take people prisoner and sell them. I will definitely go way farther into Chief Binge in the raids.